Hello, Lake Orion. Welcome to this episode of Lake Orion Sports Update. On today's show, we'll have highlights from soccer, volleyball, and football, and a lot more coming up next. On Tuesday, October 20th, the Dragons boys soccer team hosted the Oxford Wildcats for the district opener. The teams met twice in the regular season, tying each game. The district opener was a hard-fought battle for both teams. Oxford's Devan DeJong scored with 2 minutes and 28 seconds left in the first half. DeJong's goal was the only one of the game. Oxford moves on to the next round, squaring off against Stony Creek. Lake Orion ends their season with 10 wins, 3 losses, 7 ties, and as champions of the OAA White Division. On October 13th, the Dragons varsity volleyball team hosted a conference match against the Troy Colts. This would not only be the last home match of the season, but it was also senior night for the team. One by one, the seniors were announced by fellow teammates and given a short but sweet speech for the final home game. The Lake Orion team was incredibly focused during the match and was able to pull off a victory with a score of 3-0. The first set was taken by a score of 25-11 in favor of the Dragons. Troy had a little more success in the second set, but Lake Orion still managed to overpower the team and win the set 25-14. The Dragons went for the kill in the third set and won it 25-13. On Saturday, October 17th, the Dragons volleyball team traveled to Blue Water Sports Center in Warren for a tournament. This first match was against South Christian. The Lady Dragons won the first set 25-16 and the second 25-23, winning the first match of the day. They went on to face Lapeer. The first match was close, with Lake Orion winning 28-26. They dominated the second set 25-11, giving them their second match win. The third team to square off against Lake Orion was Stony Creek. Against the first set was close, with your Dragons winning 26-24. The second set was easily won 25-16, making them now 3-0. The fourth team they saw was Pioneer. They didn't prove to be much of a challenge as Lake Orion won the first set 25-15 and the second set 25-10. Now 4-0, the Dragons would face Romeo. The Bulldogs won the first set 25-18 and stunned the Dragons. They regrouped and won the next two sets 25-22 and 19-17, taking the match. The Dragons only had one team left and entered their last match undefeated on the day at 6-0. The Dragons faced off against Gabriel Richard. Lake Orion won the first set 25-18. Gabriel Richard took the second set 25-18. At the end of the third set, Gabriel Richards came out victorious, beating the Dragons 15-11. The volleyball team ended the tournament with 6 wins and 1 loss. On October 4th, the Lady Dragons traveled to North Branch to compete in a non-league tournament. Lake Orion played against 5 different schools throughout the day, starting with Avondale. The Dragons won both sets with scores of 25-11 and 25-21. Lake Orion moved on to face off against Clare. The match went in favor of the Dragons with scores of 25-11 and 25-8. Corunna was the next Dragons opponent. Lake Orion once again took the match 2-0. Lake Orion then took on L'Anse Cruz, winning the match 2-0. The Dragon streak was then broken when they played against Saline, who won the match 2-0. Here are the current OAA Red Division standings. On Friday, October 16th, the Dragons football squad traveled to Clarkston High School for a large rivalry matchup. Lake Orion had an early chance to score, but couldn't punch the ball in the end zone from the 1-yard line. Clarkston opened the scoring in the second quarter when Nolan Erickson ran from 1 yard out to go up 7-0. Clarkston scored again in the second when Alex Kessman threw an 8-yard pass to Jonah Kaponen to take the lead 13-0 and end the first half. In the third quarter, Clarkston kept growing their lead and scored again. Erickson scored from 8 yards out, set up by a 43-yard pass on the previous play. This time they opted for a 2-point conversion where Kessman threw to Kaponen. The conversion was successful and Clarkston took the lead 21-0. Clarkson would score again to go up 28-0 when Erickson ran for a 43-yard touchdown. Kyle Genter would block a Lake Orion punt deep in Orion territory and score a special teams touchdown from 9 yards out. Clarkson was now up 35-0. Lake Orion would go and finally score 2 late touchdowns in the fourth quarter. The first was scored by Chris Wilson from 1 yard out. The second score was when Max Hornifer connected with Scott Ciora for a 2-yard touchdown pass. The Dragons lost the game 35-14. The Dragons will miss the playoffs for the second straight year and fall to 3-5 on the season. On Friday, October 23rd, the Dragons ended their season with an OAA crossover game against the Farmington Falcons. Lake Orion's final home game for the season ended on a high note as the team won the game against Farmington 17-14. In the first quarter of action, senior kicker Luke Belavlacqua created a Dragon lead early on with a 32-yard field goal. Shortly after, Falcon Kyle Brunson scored a touchdown, putting Farmington in the lead 7-3. In the second quarter, Lake Orion would get the touchdown they were looking for as Keith Field made a 59-yard touchdown run, putting the Dragons in the lead 10-7. Neither team would advance the score in the remainder of the second quarter. Keith Field would score yet again in the third quarter, making it 17-7 in the Dragons' favor. In the fourth, the Falcon David Reese made a 7-yard touchdown in an attempt to even out the score. Luckily for the Dragons, Farmington was unable to score the 2-point conversion, and Lake Orion won the game. Thanks for watching today's episode of Lake Orion Sports Update. I'm Kevin McCormick. Tune in next time for the latest news during the winter sports season.